ABC Sports is live at Phoenix International Raceway for the IRL Indycar Series today. The Purex Style Indy 200, second race of the 16-race 2003 IRL season. On the second lap of the race, a caution. The car sliding to the inside of the racetrack in turn number 2, Tora Takagi. Now, it was an interesting start as the pole sitter Tony Kanaan got off to a rather bad start and several passed him. Paul Page and Scott Goodyear are here as usual to do the play-by-play.
Yeah, Gil DeFerrin tried a bonsai run down the inside. It didn't work for him, and Scott Dixon went to the lead with Giafone coming in behind. Kanaan forced to settle for third.
And all you see right there, the high side goes Gil DeFerrin. Now, not know whether or not he got some debris on his tires, some rubber. There had a Silver Crown race here before, but he gets in, and all of a sudden just gets a little bit loose mid-turn.
And then big time loose. Fortunately, nobody touched him, but you just saw Tora Takagi, who came down the inside trying to miss him, got on the grass.
And watch what goes on here. He just gets to the middle of the turn. The back end will step out slightly. He tries to correct, and then he's up in the dirt, as we call it, in the debris. The back end's carrying its motion. It goes all the way around, and sure enough, both those guys miss him. And what a great job they did to do that. Now you see here behind there, Takagi tries to go off the track to avoid him, gets on the grass. There's no adhesion on the grass, Paul. You get on the grass, you're done.
It's amazing, though, that in the start of the race that Gil DeFerrin got away with that without anybody touching him. Let's go to Jack Arute.
But, Paul, the concern on Gil DeFerrin's Marlboro Team Penske operation was the fact that maybe he had the problem with the front wing. Now, let's go back to the start of the race. Tony Kanaan was told by his spotter it was going to be a no start, that the yellow was going to stay out. Tony Kanaan never came up through the gearbox. You should have heard Tony Kanaan when he talking to his spotter when the green came out.
Well, this is the start itself, and yeah, Kanaan certainly hesitated.
What a mess.
But the actual start zone is well in advance of the line, and the field is under the control of Tony. I wonder why they would suggest that to him, where a spotter would get that information.
Well, I sort of thought he had a problem with the car, Paul, at the very beginning, but obviously not, because he got back up to speed right away once he got down to turns 1 and 2. So no doubt he wasn't anticipating the start. And the key thing that we have to remember here is that it's a long race.
So that would have to frustrate the very likable Tony Kanaan, his second pole in a row in the IRL. They're inches away at 214 miles an hour. Oh, Castroneves wins the Indianapolis 500. Look at this.
Back live at Phoenix International Raceway, you see the pace car pulling off and the field now under the control of the leader, Scott Dixon, who won the season opener. We did have a crash on the second lap of the race as Tora Takagi slid down to the inside wall after Gil DeFerrin spun. It was a rather ragged start. Hopefully this one will be more successful. Here's the restart order as we go back to Paul and Scott.
And the winner of the first race, Scott Dixon, will bring the field down, followed in order by Giafone, who, of course, qualified along with Tony Kanaan, the third place car in the line, for the front row. Dixon now brings them to the line. Green flag is out. They race again. Giafone looks both left and right. Buddy Lazier made 7 positions just in the first 2 laps before we went yellow. He's definitely on the move. Remember, he won from last place the last time he won here.
Paul, he certainly took advantage of that bad start that was going on. Everybody getting bobbled up going into turn 1, not as fast a start as usual. He took advantage of that and got past a lot of cars. A very good veteran here at Phoenix.
Helio Castroneves, the 3 car, looks to the outside as he tries to get around Thomas Scheckter. Now he's going to try the inside. Scheckter gives him room, but he can't take advantage of it.
Not enough of a run coming off turns 3 and 4. Setup is so critical here, Paul. You have to set the guys up in turns 3 and 4 if you think you're going to get them into 1, and then again set them up in 1 and 2 if you want to take a run at them going into 3. It's a mile track here. It's shaped like a D, and it's that kink is in the back stretch. Sometimes that's a great place to pop out from underneath guys to get them going into 3.
Here the guys on the move. Take a look at Little Al, up 11 positions. So he's on the fly as well. Now, with the basketball running over, there were a couple of things that we really want to get to. One, there's Al Unser Jr. One of them is Chevrolets could only manage to qualify 12. That was Jacques Lazier's qualification.
Inside. Still there. Still there.
Hearing some conversation from the radio, which is so important, coming from the spotters, letting the drivers know if somebody's popping on the inside of them. Yasukawa did a nice move there, just had a look, couldn't make it happen.
Now you're on board, Sam Hornish Jr. Yasukawa's just ahead of him, then Al Unser Jr. The overall battle is for 9th place.
Now, Paul, when we watch this, watch how much faster Sam Hornish Jr. is in the middle of the turn. He loses a little bit of the horsepower race here. You start to talk about the Chevrolet, which is inside Sam's car. They're not as fast down the straightaway. But watching the turns there, just dives underneath. So much confidence with this race car.
They both come back, and Little Al take him on the inside. Now Little Al looks inside of Hornish.
That was that Toyota power of Al Unser Jr. going down the straightaway.
But, you know, like you say, part of the concern, Chevrolet is down on horsepower in comparison with both the Toyota and the Honda. They say they have the fix. They're not sure how fast they can get it fixed for all their cars.
Great battle right now going on with Buddy Lazier in the right-hand part of your screen.
You're clear. You're all clear behind.
Now, Paul, Al Jr. has been here 18 times and has never won at this racetrack.
Scott Sharp right behind Buddy Lazier in 13th. Sarah Fisher's in 14th. And Gil DeFerrin now. He tries to close.
Inside, looking inside.
And he's got Sharp on the inside.
Scott tried to carry his speed in, could not get him down far enough. Had to let him go through. Remember, DeFerrin would have flat spotted those tires on that spin that he had coming through turns 1 and 2. He would have ducked into the pits, taken on some fuel, put 4 fresh Firestone tires on, and he had to start from the back. So he's doing a great job coming up through the field.
Yeah, when they took the green on the restart, he was 21st. The other thing about this track, Scott Goodyear, it's all about traffic. You've won here. You've been on the pole here. You're on top of the back of the field within a few laps, and then the rest of the day is like being on the 405 freeway.
It's actually trying to go through the freeway. You're trying to go through there at maybe 120 miles an hour if you're driving your car on the freeway, and everybody else is doing the speed limit. That's what it feels like to these guys here. If your race car works well, you can run a high line, you can run a low line. You want to be able to drive around the top of people, especially in turns 3 and 4. If you can't carry the speed out of the turns, you won't carry the speed down the straightaway. You won't be able to duck inside of them going into the turn, which is exactly what DeFerrin's trying to do right now. Now remember, Paul, we talked about it just a second ago. There was a Silver Crown race here a little bit earlier. They ran a 100-lap race here, and there's a lot of power put down with those cars. There's a lot of different rubber on this racetrack right now, and after about 20 laps to 30 laps, these cars will start to put down their own Firestone rubber on the track. Tires actually wear and groove themselves into the racetrack itself, and these cars will start to handle different. The drivers will have to make some changes inside the cockpit to be able to adjust for that.
Well, this race, the Pure X Style Indy 200, is part of the Copper World Classic weekend here, which is a grand old event at this wonderfully historic track that brings all kinds of competition in for the United States Auto Club. So they've been racing this track now solidly for 3 days. We're looking at the fight for 4th.
Castro Neves having a look. Oh, gets the door closed on him. That is amazing. You see Scheckter right now made the right move. He went around the outside, the top of Scott Mayer, who's actually now third. Guys are starting to go through traffic, Paul, as you mentioned a second ago. You have to choose the traffic lane. You have to make sure you keep your momentum up going through the turn. Otherwise, you can get gobbled up by 2 or 3 guys that are behind you.
So back to the front of the field. The story on Scheckter, Jack.
Well, Scott Goodyear was talking about the fact that you need to put that Firestone rubber down. Thomas Scheckter does not like the handling of his car at the present time. In fact, this early, Scotty's already called for more front wing on the first pit stop.
Well, Jack, what that's telling you is that his car's not going through the turn. It's understeering. We just saw him go right down to the yellow line in the middle of turns 1 and 2, using up all the racetrack. when he turns in the turn like he is right now, he's not getting enough reaction out of the steering wheel, and the car starts to slide out from underneath him on the front.
Speeds last time around as we clock them at the line.
That's set, Paul. Look
we
who's
were watching
fastest.
the guy that was going quickest.
So
Thomas Schecker, the red and white number 10, guy we're watching right now. So at the front of the field, it remains the teammate to this car, the number 9 of Scott Dixon, the winner of the first race at Miami. We're at Phoenix with a definite look ahead to the upcoming Indianapolis 500-mile race.
Back at Phoenix International Raceway, where the caution is waving over this 1-mile oval again. And this time it's for the two-time and defending IRL IndyCar Series champion Sam Hornish Jr., who has made contact with the wall in turn number 3. He quickly radioed saying he was okay, but there was a touch of tires and Sam was hard into that outside wall.
And it looked, Bob, like he was just trying to make the line just a little bit higher. I think the lower car ended up moving up on him, just touching his left rear tire, losing control of the back end of the car. He was doing so well. Fast and warm up this morning, getting himself up into the top 10. Could have got some points today.
He finished 10th at the opener at the Homestead Miami Speedway. He won this race here at Phoenix back in 2001 and finished 3rd here last year. But today his race has ended early. Only 33 laps have been completed, and Sam Hornish Jr.'s car, as you can see, is badly damaged against the wall in turn number 3. But again, Sam quickly radioed the crew saying that he was okay. Pit stops, of course, are being made. Scott Dixon and Giafoni are first and second as they hit their pit boxes.
For Giafoni, the only change will be an air pressure change. They were playing follow the leader, so everybody is doing that, Jack, on pit road.
For Scott Dixon, no changes whatsoever, just the 35 gallons of methanol. He sets the car, and he almost, is he going to get beat out? Yes, he gets beat out by Felipe Giafoni.
Good job, guys. Good stop. Good stop. Nice job. Great job, guys. Great job.
It was a great pit stop that has Felipe Giafoni now at the front of the field, as he was able to get out just inches ahead of Scott Dixon, who was pitted further down pit road toward pit out. But Giafoni had a very quick stop and came out in the lead. The arrows on the left of that graphic up there will tell you whether a driver gained or lost a position. A green arrow indicates a gain. A red arrow indicates a loss. And here's a replay. Giafoni holding to the 60-mile-an-hour speed limit on pit road, but he was at 60 when he went around Dixon, who was just getting out of his pit box. And that's the way that Giafoni will be lining up for the restart. We'll be back after this, and a word from our ABC stations. You're watching ABC Sports Championship Television. Under caution here at Phoenix because of an accident involving Sam Hornish Jr. He is okay. And by the way, we would like to tell you that, of course, we are continuing to monitor the situation in Iraq, and ABC News will keep you updated if something happens in that country. Well, Scott Goodyear, let's try to Michael Andretti, who is currently running in 8th position.
Michael Andretti, Scott Goodyear in the booth. Can you give us a bit of an update on the track conditions from that previous race we had today?
It was a little slippery at the beginning, but it's starting to get, the track was starting to come in, and you know, our car was feeling pretty good. We're just stuck behind Brack there for a little bit, so we'll see what happens.
And it seemed like you guys were already running in traffic. Does that seem to be a concern right now so early?
Well, that's a good thing because that's what makes the racing good, so we can get some passing done. So, you know, I was looking forward to getting to the board traffic, but unfortunately, yellow came out.
Well, we'll keep an eye on your 7-Eleven car. Good luck.
Yeah.
Down to Gary Gerald.
Guys, we had an incident when Kenny Breck came in on his initial pit stop. The right rear tire changer, Mike Fisher, got clipped by the car. He went down with a lower leg injury. He has now been transported to the infield medical center for further observation. Don't have the extent of the injury, but now they'll have to make a change with this crew for Kenny Breck and the Ray Hall team.
Getting set to go back to green, Roger Yasukawa chose not to pit. He is at the front of the field as we're about to go green, Paul.
The 55 car is Yasukawa. Giafoni is going to move on him right away as the green comes out.
That's a lot of pressure, Paul, for a guy that's a rookie in this field right now, leading all these young guys that are behind him. They're all hard chargers.
How'd you like to look in your mirrors for that group? Giaffone gets a bit of an advantage by jumping him early. That yellow, by the way, really helped DeFerrin, who was on his way to going down. He was only about 5 seconds from going a lap down when the yellow came out. Yeah, the 9 car, let's keep an eye on the back of it. It looked like we saw just a puff of smoke. It might have been tires, but I'm not sure. They're going to give the black flag to this car, the 9 car, Scott Dixon. And Elio Castroneves now goes in pursuit. Jack Arute.
Well, the report is an engine problem on Scott Dixon. He just radioed in, I've got a motor problem, got a motor problem. They'll bring it out to pit road and see exactly what the problem might be.
Yeah, well, there you see it. This car, Toyota powered.
Watch your speed coming
Everybody
in,
was
Scott.
so
If we
good
can
at the
fix it,
first
we'll
race
fix
in
it.
Miami. And of course, this engine took him all the way to the checkered flag. We're in Phoenix International Raceway, the Purex Style Indy 200. I'm Paul Page with Scott Goodyear and Bob Jenkins. Jack Arute, Gary Gerald down pit side. We've had 2 incidents with the wall. Tora Takagi, who has been released from the hospital, and Sam Hornish Jr. What a surprise. Last year and 2-time champion Sam Hornish Jr. Season is just starting horribly for him. There you see, along with Takagi, he listed out of the race. A.J. Foyt IV comes into the pits for a stop. He may have actually gotten in contact at one point with Hornish Jr. when Hornish got into the wall. But at the front of the field right now, it's Giaffone. And then Castroneves actually in second place. There you see him. And Tony Kanaan, the pole sitter, going for third.
Actually, Roger Yasukawa right now looks like he's still in second, Paul, because he actually is doing a good job. I talked about him being a rookie on the restart. Didn't have the experience to take the green flag and be as quick off the restart as he should have been, but he's been running some very good laps. That car is actually engineered by John Dick, a longtime engineer who's won the Indianapolis 500. He's done a great job.
So now Castroneves, as the yellow comes on again. And by the way, that yellow around the edge is triggered by the yellow light on the racetrack. This may actually be more of a result of the problem with Dixon's car. The report now comes that Mayer got in trouble.
I'm so sorry. I pushed up in the 2. I'm okay. Sorry.
So what's the story further on Scott Dixon, Jack? Is it anything they can do anything about?
Well, it's not, Paul, but it's one of those good news and bad news type situations. In so much as it's the good news, it's not the Toyota engine. The bad news, however, is Scott Dixon comes out, takes the Hans device and the helmet, and the balaclava off is the gearbox.
So Scott Dixon, winner of the first race, is out very early on in the second race at Phoenix with the IRL.
Back at Phoenix International Raceway, where the caution is still on because of an incident involving Scott Mayer. He brushed against the wall. Felipe Giaffone is a great race driver. Did you also know he's a singer? He met his wife at a karaoke bar, and he says he won her heart by singing to her. There's some of the things that he enjoys outside of the racetrack. And at the moment, Felipe Giaffone leads this 200-lap race here at Phoenix. I think he's better in a race car than on those skis. What do you think? Down to Gary Gerald, who's with Sam Hornish Jr.
Boy, you talk about disappointment for a defending champion of the series. The first 2 events, not the greatest for you, Sam. How are you feeling? Are you okay after the contact here?
Better than I could be feeling, but you know, the car was really good. The Pennzoil Panther team, we worked real hard to get in a car that was good and set up for the race, and the car was fine at the beginning. Wasn't only running the car at about 90%, and just were able to continue to keep passing people. People kept coming back to us, so that's a great place to be.
You actually got hit, I understand. I didn't get a chance to see it. Well, we got to get back upstairs. Thank you, Sam. We're glad you're all right.
Thank you.
Tony Kanaan running in 4th position. We'll reach him on radio.
Tony Kanaan, Scott Goodyear with ABC up in the booth. Can you fill us in what happened on the start there?
We're going to restart now, so I'll talk
Thank you, sir. Good luck.
Down to Jack Arute.
Disappointment in the Iceman, Scott Dixon, the gearbox.
Yeah, it seems so. It's hard to know. Got off to a good start with Team Target, but just after that pit stop, it started making a noise in the rear, and then after the restart, we sort of knew it wasn't right.
We're going back to green. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks a lot.
So the field lines up now behind Felipe Giafoni. Roger Yazukawa sits in second place. I tried to put him further back earlier, for which I apologize. Castroneves, then Kanaan, then Franchitti Andretti, and Thomas Scheckter. So with the yellow coming out, we had expected a green flag, but they're going to send him another lap. Don't forget that Friday, Daniel Stern comes to ABC in a new comedy. Regular Joe is a single father whose daughter is a single parent too. Regular Joe, Friday, 9:30, 8 Central on ABC. So they will go the extra lap now. Kenny Breck, they took advantage of this caution, stopped the car, refueled only. So the strategy is at play for Breck, who came out of the pits and lined up in 14th position.
One thing you always want to do is have an opportunity to fill up as late as possible underneath those yellows, Paul. As you mentioned, you never know when you catch the next yellows. We're coming up here for the restart.
Green, 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 green.
Giafoni jumps on the field. Castroneves
Good job.
takes a look at Yazukawa. And Kanaan and Franchitti go side by side. Now somebody's slowing bad. One of the set, and that's Michael.
Well, actually, I would say that Scheckter and Andretti touched going through the turn there. I saw a puff of smoke coming off the rear tires of both of those cars. So just a bit of a scary moment there, because we saw what happened with Sam Hortis Jr. when he touched wheels.
Michael tries to get it back up to speed, tries to get inside of Lazier.
Now, what could have happened, Paul, is he could have knocked the alignment out of the right rear of the car, which is actually right up there. And anytime you do that, the car can mishandle.
So now you ride on board with Buell. And Michael seems stable. That's really the key question.
Well, the smart thing to do is to take a couple of laps to make sure that the car is working well. Michael said, I think I bent the suspension a little.
We'll go back and show you exactly what happened.
Right here. Watch these guys right there. Just a puff of smoke coming off. Both between Scheckter and Andretti.
On one hand, if you got damage on one car, it's logical you have it on two. Jack Arute, what do you know?
Paul, they did a quick check verbally with Michael Andretti to make sure that, most importantly, the car steered properly. That, Michael Andretti said, was fine. But they had to calm Mike down just a little bit and said, just stay focused, Michael. Make this run to the next pit stop, and we'll make any minor adjustments we need. He's trying to get calm back down, but you know how tough that is for an Andretti.
Well, when he reacted to the one radio call, it sounded like he was getting things under control. As we look here at the Yamaha lap leaders, with Dixon, of course, leading the most, but he is out of competition. And we're still watching Michael, because there may be something. We're looking at the left front. Yeah, it looks like it's dragging just a bit.
Now, Paul, as we're watching here right now, I think I'm looking at Michael's left front wing, which is right up in this area here, actually just starting to vibrate just a little bit more than usual. Also looks like it's down towards the ground. He might have actually had something happen there also. Now, I will add that when you have any suspension problems on the car itself, the right rear has so much load around this racetrack as you're turning through the turns. The right rear accepts all the load. If there's any place you don't want a suspension problem, is on the right rear.
At the front, it remains Giafoni. Nagasawa is staying there in second place. Car's a little lighter, but he's given it a great ride. It's been the start since he's actually refueled the car, and he should be able to go another 15 laps minimally before he has to stop.
Well, another fine job by Roger Yasukawa. He actually didn't get a start like he did the first time. Slipped himself back. Right now, we're seeing Scott Sharp run along in a Allenser Jr. and actually Scott Sharp right there we're going to go on board with. Now let's listen to his throttle trace right now. Off the throttle just a little bit through turns 3 and 4. Back on the gas. When the car's working perfectly, he'll actually keep his foot on the throttle most of the way around. lift there again in turns 1 and 2, coming out of 2, so close to that wall. Through the back kink, going in turns 3 and 4, about 190 miles an hour.
Unser Jr., the leader of this little group, is in 8th, and then Buddy Rice, and then the red and yellow number 8 of Scott Sharp. What story on Schechter, Jack?
Well, Paul, again, the best you can do is check the TV monitors if you're a crew member and talk on the radio. They've done those two things. They cannot discern any problems with Thomas Schechter's car, and he really hasn't said much since that little brush.
Well, what we can add to that is keeping track of lap times and speeds. And, well, there they are, the fastest lap and the last lap. So he's only fallen off a little bit and remains in 6th place. We're going to go back on board with Scott Sharp now. Remember, he is running in 10th place. Our Firestone on board telemetry. Take a look at the lateral G's at this place.
And Paul, we talked about the throttle. You see is at 99 to 100% throttle down the straight into turns 1 and 2. Off the gas a fair amount. Now you picked up a throttle back up. Accelerate down the back straightaway. Already doing about 140, 50, 60 miles an hour, all the way up to 180 going to turns. Now watch the G's. They just really accelerate as you get mid-turn. 3.5 times your body weight you're feeling going through there. 200 laps today at about 85-degree ambient temperature, about 125 degrees cockpit temperature inside the car. Remember, these guys don't get much of a break. We're just not out there for a down or anything right now, or one quick run. This is actually out here for about 2 hours of hard driving. The heart rate's going at about 165 beats a minute.
Take a look at that fight just ahead of him as Al Unser Jr. and Buddy Rice go at it, and Sharp tries to get down inside it. Now we go back to the front of the field. Felipe Giafoni. Roger Yazukawa first and second. Castroneves is third. Then Tony Kanaan, the pole sitter.
Paul, Roger Yazukawa, being a rookie, is actually now catching up to Felipe Giafoni, which is, when you think about it, hardly any track time here at Phoenix. Not a lot of big car experience, but he's actually getting closer.
We keep an eye on him. The car is going to be almost 200 pounds lighter, though, at this point.
Well, it's going to be lighter, as you mentioned, Paul, and that's because he has not had any fuel taken back on board. He's not had a pit stop yet. But on top of that, you're also running with tires that have been out there right now since the very beginning of the race. So 70 laps, 71 laps on tires right now. They're not at their peak, so he's really doing an excellent job.
Roger Yazukawa, guys, has in his ear as his spotter Alex Barron, who was a winner in the IRL IndyCar Series last year without a ride thus far this season. Tom Anderson, who's the general manager of this team that Yazukawa drives for, was just bragging about what a great job Alex Barron has done in helping this rookie learn his way around a very tough racetrack. Jack?
Gary, we've gone back to our display car to show people a little bit closer the front wing issues with Michael Andretti's car. This is the front wing on a race car. Now, they look a little delicate. But you can see I can lean on them. I can put almost 200 pounds there. Nothing's going to happen. So in that confrontation, when Michael Andretti had the problem, Scott Goodyear, that you're showing, under normal conditions, this wing doesn't vibrate the way it is right now on Michael's car.
Well, we've seen some vibration out of that, and it's very hard to be able to say that that might be an issue with him. But let me come back and talk about something I mentioned before. Michael Andretti had the right rear of his car actually knocked out of alignment, possibly. Or that's where the contact was with Thomas Schechter. Thomas Schechter had the left inside portion of his car make contact with Michael's. It's not as crucial on the left-hand side going around this 1 mile oval as it is the right. Michael got the worst deal out of that contact, that's for sure.
Well, Michael Andretti runs in 13. And hasn't been able to do much since that contact. Here's the leader, Felipe Giafoni, won last year. And the best guess is that Yazukawa is probably going to be on the pit road pretty quickly now, probably sometime within the next 5 to 10 laps. There's your top 6. We welcome you back to Phoenix International Raceway, the Indy Racing League IndyCar Series. You're watching the leader, and we track via graphics the position of that battle for second place. Currently between Roger Yazukawa and Helio Castroneves, though we expect the 55 car of Yazukawa in the pits almost any time. He's had the advantage of a couple of yellow sessions, though 3 of them, in fact, they haven't been all that long, and he ought to be able to carry it a little further. Jack Arute
Well, A.J. Foyt the fourth, your learning curve continues, but it stopped early today. What happened?
Yeah, it seemed like after me and Hornish had contact in my right front wheel, just after that, this car just didn't even want to turn on the getting in the corner. So we're gonna put on the pad and see what happened to it.
Gary, another rookie who's doing really well, is headed towards you.
Boy, Roger Yasukawa coming down pit road. He comes in here a little hot, but he hits the marks beautifully. And what a transition it is for a youngster in one of these cars at these speeds to get it rode down. Tom Anderson told us absolutely no changes, just waiting for the fueling to be complete. Now it's off the ground. Right around 13.1 seconds on my clock, maybe a little quicker on yours.
Yeah, 12.9 on ours. Beautiful stop, routine. Tire change, fuel, and off he goes. That puts Castroneves into second. And, of course, when you're talking a 1 mile track, that means that Yasukawa is going to fall, stopping under green, a lap behind the lead. They took the gamble. In this case, it didn't work for him, but he sure got an education up there.
And he's done himself very proud, I think, Paul, because he did such a great job as we come to a yellow right now.
Caution. This is for debris. So no contact with the wall. But the yellow comes out, and again, our yellow there is triggered by the yellow light itself. We'll be back after this and a word from our ABC stations. You're watching ABC Sports Championship Television.
Debris caution here at Phoenix International, and everybody on the lead lap is coming in for a pit stop. Here's Gary.
Philippe Giafone loves his race car. They made a tire pressure adjustment on the last stop. It's been beautiful. It's routine with no changes. Fuel and new Firestones. He's gone. Jack, how about you?
No changes for Helio Castroneves. They took on fuel. He lights up the tires, but he still, despite the fact that Roger Penske's team is further towards turn one, they failed to beat Felipe Giafone out of pit road, guys.
Another good pit stop by the Giafone team as they have him out once again in front of this field. Bad timing for Roger Yasukawa, who of course went for so long without a pit stop. He decided to come in and take one, and then in a lap and a half later the caution came out. Down to Gary Gerald.
Quick update on Mike Fisher from Columbus, Ohio. Right rear tire changer on the Rahal team. The car of Kenny Breck clipped him coming in for that first pit stop. Fisher has now been transported by ground to a hospital in Phoenix for x-rays and further observation of a leg injury. While we have a moment, we're under yellow. Ari Lyondike is standing alongside here in the Mo Nunn pit. Ari, I understand you've made arrangements. You're going to run for Mo. Your 18th Indianapolis 500 appearance. You must be excited.
Really excited to be back with Mo. Worked with him in the past, and obviously the team is running great today, and we just had a phenomenal pit stop, so hopefully the team can keep up the good work for May.
How tough will it be to go in and just run one racing event in a 500 miler?
We get a lot of practice laps at Indy, so we'll be okay. Maybe the pit stops we need to work on a little bit extra, because obviously I don't do those too often, but driving the car, I'll get to do enough of that during the month of May.
And of course he's won this event 2 times at Indianapolis. Wish you well, Ari.
Thank you.
All right.
It'll be great to see Ari Lyondike back in the race car at Indianapolis. Caution remains out here at Phoenix next Sunday. Dirk Nowitzki and the league-leading Mavs take on MVP candidate Kevin Garnett and the Timberwolves. NBC Sundays on ABC. Coverage begins at 1 o'clock Eastern. Then will be followed by the final round action of the LPGA's Kraft Nabisco Championship. Under IRL rules now, the pace car will pick up the leader of the race, and that means that everybody ahead of the leader will be able to go around and get the lap back, including Roger Yasukawa. Michael Andretti is at the front of the field at the moment. He apparently has not made a pit stop on this sequence. So Andretti, Giafone, Castroneves, Franchitti, and Scheckter are the top 5. Once again, we remind you that we are monitoring closely the situation in Iraq, and ABC News will join us if there are any updates that need to be passed along. So stay with us for the race, but if anything important happens in Iraq, we will break in with immediate news. You see, we've had 4 caution laps for 4 caution flags rather for 29 laps. 4 leaders of the race so far. The most laps have been led by Felipe Giafone, who currently is in 2nd position. Paul?
Michael Andretti is playing the gamble now. He did not stop. Last time he stopped was on the 51st lap, so he stays in front. Giafone comes out in second place and begins to challenge Michael. But Michael's up to the game. Andretti, Giafone, Castroneves, Dario Franchitti had a great stop and sits in fourth place. Front stretch over 190 miles an hour. Now to go in his career. This, then in 2 weeks in Motegi, Japan, and the Indianapolis 500, and he has announced that Indy will be the last time. How great it would be to take a second win at Phoenix.
Fuel is more important than
Castroneves working on Felipe Giafone in the Hollywood car for second.
Got right underneath him, Paul, through turns 3 and 4. Got what we call a little bit of dirty air. You saw him lose a little speed coming off of turn 4. We'll have to take another run at him coming up through turns 3 and 4 again this time.
yellow, Felipe, yellow. We got a car in turn 2.
Oh, after such a great job he's done
Roger.
today.
Yakasawa catches the wall. And that brings out the 5th caution of the day at the 100th lap, the halfway point of the race.
Now, Paul, the looks of that, he's just on the exit of 2. That's where we are. That's where the medical attention is looking at him right now. That means you had a problem in turns 1 and 2. The back of the car was demolished. It looks like the attenuator did its work. But remember, he pitted, got some fuel and some new tires. Now, as we watch through here, he's already sideways. Now, Allenser Jr. is very close to him. We're not sure if he got some dirty air or maybe touched Allenser Jr. Allenser Jr. continued on, and Yasukawa, after he hit the wall, a lot of damage to the rear of the car. His day is over.
Well, he had a terrific run, though, and really showed he has the stuff to do it. The team helped him. They've pulled the pads out from around the cockpit, mandated by the Indy Racing League, to help keep you sitting a little more upright, and it looks like he's fine except for the embarrassment of this crash. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, one of the situations that starts to look cool is the way you figure out what you're going to do during the course of the second half of the race. For Michael Andretti, it's become a fuel conservation race. Doesn't want to pit now and take on fuel and have to work his way back through the heavy race traffic. He's had a consultation with his engineer and with his crew chief, and they said, instead of worrying about the traffic, let's do our race, conserve fuel, and worry about it for the last 50 miles.
Well, he's taken a gamble that's bigger than we thought.
Roger Yasukawa sits on the side pod of his race car. Apparently is okay. He is receiving some help there in getting his helmet off. But a good run, negated by a crash against the second turn wall here at the Phoenix International Raceway. Michael Andretti leads. 104 of 200 laps completed here at Phoenix International Raceway, the Purex style Indy 200 for the IRL IndyCar Series. The leader is Michael Andretti under caution because of an accident involving Roger Yasukawa. He appears to be okay. We'll talk to Michael Andretti once again on the radio.
Michael Andretti, Scott Goodyear with ABC in the booth. A little bit of contact, it looked like, there with Thomas Scheckter. Can you give us an update on what happened with the car?
Yeah, a little disappointed. Scheckter and then also Lazier going into turn 3 just came across my nose and bent my steering. I'm really hanging on for dear life here. I got a huge understeer to this bent steering.
Well, we saw the contact between Scheckter and yourself and a puff of smoke come off your right rear. Did Lazier get your front wing? Because we're noticing right now that maybe the front wing might have a little bit of damage to it.
Yeah, it was definitely was the front, not the rear, and you know, they definitely damaged it. It's a shame because the Team 711 car was just really hooked up. All I needed was track position, and I think we could have had a shot at winning this, so it was a little disappointing.
Well, the day's still long, and a winner here in 1986, so we hope you can do it today. Good luck.
Every race will answer your internet question about the IRL IndyCar Series. Here's one from Dustin from Middlesburg Heights, Ohio. Why aren't the tires made thicker so you can run longer without changing them? Scott, what's the answer?
Well, the key thing with tires right now actually is that the tires are not that thick because they don't have treads on them. And the other thing, Bob, is that a thin tire actually runs a little bit cooler. But for more information on that, why don't we get down to Gary?
Well, Scott, we've got an example of each one here. Here's a passenger Firestone tire, and you can see clearly, and of course we're all familiar with this, how much tread and the depth of the tread and the way it's designed to shed water. The racing tire, of course, is slick. There is no tread because you don't disperse any water. This thickness here is about the thickness of a dime to maybe 2 credit cards thick. That's all. And of course, the enemy of any racer and any tire manufacturer is heat. The more tread you have, the more heat that can build up. You build up heat, you can blister a tire. So it's a great question, Bob, about what you want to do. That's why they basically don't run with more tread depth on these. They're designed for a load of fuel. They get the job done, and they get it done very nicely.
Indeed they do. Thanks, Gary. Now you can log on to ESPN.com, keyword IRL, and submit your question, which we'll try to answer later in the broadcast. Andretti, Giafoni, Castroneves, and Franchitti here at Phoenix. Back in a moment. Still under caution here at Phoenix International Raceway. Michael Andretti is the leader of the race. However, he has only pitted once, and we are well past the halfway point of this event. So it's going to be interesting to see how far he can go. During each race this year, we're going to take you behind the scenes and show you what it's like to do a telecast. This week, we feature the RoboCams.
What we've got around the track, anywhere where it's too dangerous to actually put a manned camera, we put remote pan and tilt cameras. This camera coming out of turn 2 actually got hit last year by some debris. They can operate from over a mile away, and I actually on this show run 2 cameras.
The camera's mounted down on the wall out of harm's way. Cable runs up to the hill where I'm underneath the bleachers. Basically every move that I make, this camera makes the same move down there.
We run it remotely. It all goes down phone wire, just 2 little pieces of copper. And we can actually run it from anywhere practically in the world. The only problem is getting real-time video to where we're going to operate it from. The only way to cover a sport this fast is to be on the track. RoboCams take you there.
This caution is for Roger Yasukawa's crash, and it occurred, and we captured it on one of those RoboCams. Now the camera is located on the wall out in turn number 2. You see Roger hitting the wall, and then the car sliding past our RoboCam as it headed toward the inside of the racetrack. Needless to say, you don't want to put a man camera there, but the RoboCam captured every moment. Let's take a look at our Yamaha lap leaders. Giafoni has led the most. Scott Dixon is out of the race. Andretti is the current leader, and Yasukawa led 5 laps when he too stretched the fuel mileage. Over to Paul.
Well, you know, it's interesting when you talk with Michael Andretti on the radio, and it sounded like he'd kind of given the race up. There are 2 guys playing a strategy here. One is Michael, the other is Al Unser Jr., but do you think Michael said, I can't really keep in front the whole way?
Well, I tell you, he doesn't believe that in his mind. He might be saying that, but he's a very cagey driver. There's a big plan going on right now in their pit lane, I'm sure, trying to figure out and maybe stretch this yellow, maybe take one more yellow, which everybody probably has to do. He's betting on it, betting on that next yellow, falls within what we call his fuel window, and he's thinking that he can be a winner here today, I'm sure.
And Al Unser Jr., he stopped on the 105th lap. I'm pretty sure he can't go 95, but we're at 5 yellows already. We get more than that. Bob Jenkins, he just might be able to do that.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see if the strategy does pay off. It did not for Yasukawa. However, we'll see what happens with Michael. Helio Castroneves won here last year in the 58 Indy style races here at PIR. How many back-to-back winners have there been? And the Andrettis have won here 4 times. And you see the family feud that has gone on in the 1992 Indianapolis 500. right. The signal is out. One more lap to go. Paul and Scott, the green is moments away.
Can Michael Andretti hold on now? Felipe Giafone, Catherine Neves, Franchitti, Scheckter, DeFerrin, and Buddy Rice all lined up right behind him.
And Paul, Giafone may be more concerned about Castroneves behind him than Andretti in front. So keep an eye on these bunch right up front. We all will.
Michael brings him to the green. Johnny Rutherford's taking the Chevrolet Corvette pace car off the track already. Paces up to Michael.
Green flag.
Giafone sure wants to get away from Castroneves and around, but look at Franchitti. Move there, high on the outside. Comes up alongside on the opening for Neves.
Now we saw in the start, Michael come down the middle of the front stretch, trying to play a very defensive game as he's doing right now. Remember, he's on old tires, doesn't have a whole lot of grip. 3 wide going in through. He's going to get high. That doesn't work very often. Franchitti was very lucky with that one.
Franchitti's that blue and white number 27 car.
Now he's got to recompose himself, go back. Remember, you're going into that turn over 190 miles an hour, and it really funnels down to one lane. We've seen a few people touch there already here today from turns 1 and 2.
You saw when he got wide, Breck and the gang got down under him and were able to get past, dropping him back to 8th place. So Scheckter, Rice, Breck coming forward.
Now Giafone has certainly pulled out a lead. Some fresh tires on there. Everybody's going to bottle up behind Michael. Now remember, Michael's probably running a little bit leaner fuel mixture. And what do we mean by that? Is that he's turned the fuel system down in the cars. We come up to the yellow.
And this is for debris. Look at this. Okay, well that's the debris that might be on the track.
Well, as we ride with him, we're going to circle right here for you. See all that damage on the right front? The right front corner of Scott Sharp's car has made contact with someone.
He was blocking me, and I tucked up under him and pulled to the left and got it.
And you can hear Scott explain. The driver in front was blocking.
That's who we're talking about, Robbie Buell.
Probably Robbie Buell. And look at all that damage right now. That wing right there is actually just turned itself, folded itself right back up on top of the car.
And of course, Buell may have a problem as well, though he comes back on the track. He came through the pits. He could have stopped for safety. He came through the pits with the pits closed and passed right on through and right back out. I'm pretty sure that's just so that the crew could take a good hard look at the car as he came through the pits. So we're back under caution, the 6th of the day. We'll be back after this and a word from our ABC stations. You're watching ABC Sports Championship Television.
Getting you up to speed on what happened while you were away. Well, we had some pit stops, and they were lightning fast pit stops in some cases. Felipe Giafone was in for just a few seconds, got the fuel topped off, and away he went back out onto the racetrack. Now, Jack Arute has an update on Roger Yasukawa.
The IRL officials have just come out of the infield care center and have informed me that Roger Yasukawa will be transported by ground ambulance to a nearby hospital for further evaluation. That's all we have right now, Bob.
All right, thanks, Jack. We did see him climb out of the car under his own power, so hopefully it's just for a precautionary checkover. Tony Kanaan is the leader of the race. Sarah Fisher running second. Giafone, Castroneves, and Scheckter are the top 5 as we go back to green on the 124th lap.
Yeah, Tony Kanaan came in and topped off on the 110th lap. And so he got a little ahead of the game when he did that. Wednesday night, ESPN has a full night of hoops action. First at 7 Eastern, likely NBA #1 draft pick LeBron James takes center stage in the McDonald's High School All-American game. And then at 9, Shaq, Kobe, and the Los Angeles Lakers take on Yao Ming and the Houston Rockets. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. So with that stop, which may very well be the last one of the race, that's put Kanaan, the pole sitter, back in front, and Sarah Fisher. You see her right there, the number 23 car in second place, and then Giafone and Castroneves. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Sarah Fisher just radioed back to her crew, go tell Robbie to help me. And And you can see we're in the running order. You know what she's talking about, guys. Robbie's right behind her.
And we're ready to come back to green. Yeah, that's Robbie Buell lined up third in that lineup, but a lap down. And look at him stack up behind Robbie. Castroneves finally is able, the number 3 car, to kind of resolve out of that and get going forward. At Schechter trying to look to the inside of Felipe Giafoni. Loses momentum, the red and white number 10 car. And DeFerrin's able to close up.
Now this is very important, Paul, because these guys out front want to get out, start to set a pace, trim back their fuel so they can actually start to save some fuel. And with that, what that means is that they'll take a knob on their dash and go from 0 fuel, which is 100% mixture, and go back to maybe about 98 or 95%.
Sarah Fisher chases the leader, Tony Kanaan.
Stretching it out on Robbie, got 8.
Fisher and Kanaan at 165 miles an hour last
Out there, we
time.
got half the straightaway back to Robbie. Keep plugging into it, good job.
Paul, a very impressive run right now for Sarah Fisher. Not that much testing here, just came here with a new sponsor, You Promise, from General Motors this last week. And right now she's chasing down the pole sitter. Only 22 years of age, not even as much experience of all these guys right now, but she's starting to catch these guys right in the middle of the turns.
And Scott, I asked Sarah before the start of the race, was she going to run at the Indianapolis 500? She said, and I quote, "It depends on how many hits that fans put on youpromise.com, whether this sponsorship will continue to not only Japan, but also to the Indy 500.
Hand me my laptop. Look at this, Sarah Fisher. And she's working the leader good.
Not here. What do you want her to do with the bars? She's full step. She's full step, and that's what you got.
Some radio conversation going on, talking about the handling of the car, whether the bars, which is the anti-roll bars that are on the front and rear of the suspension, which is driver cockpit operated. Sometimes they can adjust them to make the cars work a little bit better, but I think right now she's got a car that's working very well for her. And pushing it very hard. You see her come right up to the wall in the exit of 2. Remember, she's in some dirty air. The dirty air is the air that comes off the car that's in front of you and disturbs the flow of the air over your wings. Very difficult to drive where she's driving.
Back to Robbie, 3/4 straightaway.
Now remember, Buell is third on our screen. We know that he's back there behind Fisher, and he's actually a couple of laps back.
Second place, Sarah Fisher. Never won in the series. Had a second, though. Got the pole at Kentucky last year. The most popular driver in the series, and like so many today, started in go-karting. Now, you heard the report that Sarah asked Robbie Buell, who currently is physically third on the track, though Buell is 2 laps behind the race, to help her. But when you look back, you can see it's really single file behind him. It's not like at the moment he's holding anybody up or anything. At Phoenix International Raceway, the Indy Racing League Purex Dial Indy 200. I'm Paul Page, Bob Jenkins, Scott Goodyear up in the booth, Jack Root and Gary Gerald down below. We've had a race punctuated by 5 different lead changes and even more yellows, 6 different yellow flag sessions that has turned the race into a very interesting fuel strategy run. And currently we have the most popular driver in the sport by vote, Sarah Fisher, running in second place behind Tony Kanaan, the pole sitter for this run. Kanaan has had the pole the first 2 IRL races, this being number 2. The question now, can they go to the finish on the fuel that they picked up? Well, certainly not without another caution period.
Well, the pace they're running right now, that's going to be very questionable. You wonder if the guys that are further back that we don't see on the screen right now that are 3rd, 4th, and 5th on the way back, maybe they're actually dialed the fuel back and maybe they're not running as much fuel, which creates more horsepower. But the most important thing I find right now is that Kanaan is out front in a Honda, and our first Chevrolet running close up front here with Sarah Fisher is in second.
Let's go down to the pits and Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, Tony Kanaan was born and raised in Brazil, and most Brazilians pick up this ball. They play soccer, not Tony Kanaan. In fact, he told me that he started racing at such a young age, he never tried to dribble or head with a soccer ball. He says, Jack, you're probably better at it than I am. I don't think so, Tony.
Say one thing about Kanaan, he is very fit. Runs every day, cycles every day, works out. But typical of a Brazilian, he also takes a nap in the middle of the afternoon. That's just to line up the evening.
And Paul, as we ride along here with Tony Kanaan right now, see the car, Sarah Fisher's, just go a little bit wide from the line that Kanaan is running. Watch as we enter here to 3 and 4 right now. The car works well, a little bit of dirty air I talked about right about mid-turn, and the car starts to move and wash itself out. She's doing a great job.
Tony Kanaan, the leader here with 142 laps of the 200 complete. Sarah Fisher is sticking right with him. Helio Castroneves is sitting back a bit. For Tony Kanaan, his greatest moment thus far in racing, last year's Indy 500. Oh, look at this! Tony Kanaan took the advantage, came inside of Hornet.
My favorite Indy 500 memory, I would say, was that I led the 23 laps before I spun in oil.
Tony Kanaan brings them back to the green flag.
That's definitely was something that, you're like, man, I'm leading the 500 in my first year. I don't know what's going to happen if I'm going to win or not, but at least I can say, all right, I led 23 laps of the most important race in the entire award.
And as we come back to you, the yellow comes on. Quick spin. Jacques Lazier. And that's really going to help Sarah Fisher out. And in fact, Tony Kanaan, they both were a long way from their last stop. Tony Kanaan was 42 laps out. Sarah was 61. So this will give them now a chance to stop, Scott.
It's exactly what they needed. Can only stretch fuel so long, Paul.
Go back and take a look at what caused this caution period.
On the right-hand side of your screen. Oh, and Sharp is so lucky there after being involved in one mishap today with Robbie Buell. Now, as it's coming towards us, just watch the cars on the far end of your screen. The back end will start to go around. Jacques Lazier's car, so lucky not to catch this wall that's over here, because that's mostly where guys end up, and those guys are just touching. And Sharp is actually going to take off the left side of the wing where he took off the right side of the wing earlier today.
Well, there's no side plate on the left side.
Yeah, the actually right there, Paul. That side plate is missing. You can see the black side plate on the right-hand side. He's missing one on the left. Not his day.
So the question now, if you're Tony Kanaan, you're leading the race, would you bring it in or not? Right now, Jack Arute's reporting that they're debating, but Fisher comes off and decides she's going to pit.
Paul, she had no choice because she certainly wasn't going to make it to the other end.
Yeah, they were targeting, Scott, 173, 174 as far as they could go. So they're in 20 laps earlier. Mark White had just told me when I asked about the fuel situation, he said, frankly, we're screwed. Well, now they're in under yellow. We're going to lose that position that she's going.
Now,
watch the left front. Watch the left front. They didn't get it off.
We need a gun. We need a gun.
The left front tire changer, Paul, was actually changing the tire. The tire came off a little bit before he went to put the wheel nut on. And unfortunately, the wheel nut did not get on there completely. She's very lucky right now that happened in pit lane.
Let's see if they cross-threaded, though. That could be the big problem.
Okay, 3 down.
Or in 3, we got time. We got time in 3.
Well, she's going to be on the tail end of the lead lap.
Mark White is desperately calling for a left front. They don't have one available. Now they're going to go with that one they had. He was pointing down inside. Now they've got it locked on. Apparently it's okay, and they try it a second time.
Hey, watch your speed. We're okay. We're okay. Watch your speed.
She's going to get out ahead of the pace car, though.
Now watch as we do this, Paul. The wheel, the tire starts to fall off. What usually ends up happening is those tire changers are using their elbow or something to actually hold the tire on until they get the wheel nut back on. You can see the wheel nut is spinning right there, and he's putting his hand up. He has not raised his hand to turn around and let the car release. But, you know, a lot of anxiousness going on right now, running in second place. Got to get the car out before the pack comes around. Just a lot of high-flying hearts, I think, at this time.
Typical of the camaraderie of the series. You saw it further on down the pit lane, everybody trying to wave Sarah. Slow it down, get it stopped. Got to get that left front on. So Tony Kanaan would be expected to pit very shortly as well, but Sarah Fisher from second had her problems. Back with the Indy Racing League, the green has just come out and it's become a side-by-side battle between Tony Kanaan and Helio Castroneves. They darted toward one another on board Kanaan. And now Kanaan pulls away from Castroneves. At the same time, Scheckter and DeFerrin were battling just behind, and Felipe Giafone had a challenge from Scheckter in third place. So now it's Kanaan, Castroneves, Giafone, Scheckter, Jill DeFerrin, and Dario Franchitti. The real question is fuel. How far can they go, and who can they do it? Jack?
Well, that kind of slice and dice that Tony Kanaan is engaged in with Helio Castroneves is not what Tony Kanaan's 7-Eleven team wanted. The problem is they are conserving fuel. Now, the opposite end of the spectrum, Marlboro Team Penske. Helio Castroneves has the green light to do whatever he needs in terms of fuel consumption. When they discussed it, Tony Kanaan came back to his crew chief and said, "I'll do the best I can." Harry, what about third place, Felipe Giafone?
We checked with Felipe Giafone's crew just prior to that last yellow, and they said we're good to go, but with fingers crossed, they were going to have to conserve. The yellow obviously has helped him in that respect, so he's good for the distance. One other footnote, guys, regarding Sarah Fisher. On the radio after that disaster when they lost the left front, she very calmly came back and said, "That's all right, guys. We'll just learn from the mistake."
Sarah Fisher remains on the leader lap. Here are your Yamaha lap leaders after 163 of the 200-lap scheduled distance, with Felipe Giafone at the top of that group. Roger Yakusawa, you saw him down there. He went 85 laps plus the 2 parade and 1 pace lap as the yellow comes out again. He was able to go 85 laps with 26 laps of yellow. So do the math on that and try to figure. Franchitti pulls to the side.
And Paul, when he went by, his motor sounded off song, and you can see a little bit of smoke coming out from the back engine cowling right around there. And without a doubt, the motor certainly has gone sour on him.
1 year ago today, Academy Awards. Ashley Judd and Mr. Judd, better known as Dario Franchitti, attending the Academy Awards. He's not going to the Academy Awards tonight. We'll be back with more from Phoenix.
We'll be going back to green here at Phoenix International Raceway shortly. Here are the results of yesterday's second race of the year in the Infinity Pro Series. Mark Taylor won at Miami Homestead, and he also won yesterday. And so he is 2 for 2 in that series. That, of course, is a car that is out of the Panther shops in Indianapolis, the same as Sam Hornish. Tiago Medeiros, another Brazilian driver, finished second in that race yesterday. They have crossed the line and completed 168 laps, as we now see Jill DeFerrin making a pit stop here. They're getting topped off, and obviously tires being changed on DeFerrin's car, also getting set for the final few laps of this race. Tony Kanaan, who has not pitted in the last 58 laps, is at the front of the field. Castroneves, Giafone, Scheckter, and Al Unser Jr. are behind him. Paul?
Marlboro Team Penske, Bob, are going to split the strategy. They brought DeFerrin in, left Castroneves out. Kanaan and leads them back to green. So they've set Castro Neves up to go on the attack. Oh! Scheckter tried it and couldn't do it.
Yellow flag.
Just a slight touch of wheels, just like we saw earlier in the race with Michael Andretti and Scheckter. But this time Scheckter was on the outside.
9th caution of the day. The record, by the way, is 10.
Well, if Kanaan had any fuel worries, Paul, they're certainly gone now. We thought he was safe with the last yellow, but certainly this will take him right to the end with the fuel that he has on board.
So Tony Kanaan driving for Andretti Green. Speaking of Michael Andretti, by the way, he's 6th now after he had the lead earlier and then the tap that put his car into a really bad push situation. This is a rear view from the Chevrolet Corvette pace car. Johnny Rutherford, 3-time Indianapolis 500 champion, the driver there, as the rest of the field comes up and closes up on the pace car under the caution. Now watch Thomas Scheckter, the red and white number 10. As he goes around Giafoni. They touch.
Doesn't know he's there, Paul, and he just moves up the racetrack and touches his left front wheel. What a shame. He certainly had a race car. He felt confident with it to go around the outside of Giafoni. And there was the contact.
And guys, it's interesting, on the radio they're telling Thomas after it all happened, he said, that's all right, way to go. That's why we're here, to go racing. So they applauded the move. Jack?
Well, Dario Franchitti has made his way back to his Archipelago Motorola Honda pits, and you hate to say an engine let go. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I think so, but I can't really blame the engine. On the last restart, I was downshifting to 4th to get a good run out of turn 2 here, and the gearbox misselected and got 3rd, so I over-revved on the downshift because of that. So in fairness to the engine, I don't think it was a traditional engine failure. It was caused by that, the misshift, but it's a shame because we had a pretty good run going today.
Dario, let's talk for a moment about your teammate, Tony Kanaan, running on a fuel conservation effort. Michael already has some understeer problems from a confrontation he had with Thomas Scheckter. How tough is it when your crew tells you, hey, you got to conserve fuel, especially when you got someone like Helio Castro Neves all over your rear wing?
It's fairly tough. It's definitely a juggling act there. You've got to get the balance just right, but I think Tony's the man for the job today. I'm hoping so anyway.
There's a teammate pulling for another teammate, guys.
Dario Franchitti out of today's race. Tomorrow, don't miss the first of 7 all-new episodes in a row of the critically acclaimed drama, The Practice. ABC tomorrow, 9/8 Central. Well, it has been a very interesting race, and we have seen some touching of tires and drivers into the wall, but I kind of agree with what was said from the pit area, that these guys are aggressive, and that's the type of action we're going to see all year long in the IRL IndyCar Series. Tony Kanaan is the leader of this race. The question is, can he go the distance on fuel, and will he be able to stay in front of everyone else? Castro Neves is right behind him, Giafoni, and a great run by Al Unser Jr., who's shown now in 4th position, with Kenny Breck 5th, and Michael Andretti, who has had his ups and downs, is running in 6th position. Tony Kanaan won the pole in Miami. He also won the pole here this weekend, so he is 2 for 2 in the IRL. He was the Rookie of the Year in kart in '98, and before that won the Indy Lights Championship in 1997. Could he be on his way to his first victory in the IRL IndyCar Series? We'll know in about 27 laps. Some of the stories that we started out looking for, well, Sam Hornish Jr. was one of the first out of this race. He'll finish in 21st position, crashing out early in the event. Then the battle of the blocks, Honda, Toyota, and Chevy, the 3 makes that are in the series this year. And right now, the best of the Brazilian bunch is the same person that it was at the start of the race. He sat on the pole, and he is currently leading this event, Tony Kanaan. Down to the pits.
Bob, for Felipe Giafoni of the Monon crew, there was concern after that brush with Thomas Scheckter. Scheckter, of course, now sidelined. So Chief Mechanic Tom Vassie goes out over the wall to the edge of the racetrack under yellow, surveying the car. And then with radio communication with Felipe, they've determined that they think everything is okay in 3rd place. Jack?
Gary, consider the day that Tony Kanaan has had. He first was told by his spotter at the drop of the green flag, no start. He had to let other cars get in front of him. Now he's had to conserve fuel. But because of the length of the caution periods, I talked to Kim Green and he said, you know what? It isn't as bad now as it was just a little while ago. They're going to give Tony Kanaan the green light to battle with Helio Castroneves. Guys?
And the green is about to come out with Kanaan, Castroneves, and Giafoni leading them to the green, Paul.
The restart order is straight up. Kanaan leads them to the green. We're going to be commercial free to the end of the run here. Kenny Brack on the move. Down to the inside, Unser Jr. Wonder how bad Tony Kanaan wanted to drive in racing like this. He made a deal with a race shop owner once, a garage owner, to lock him in the shop every night so he'd have a free place to sleep. Six laps since Kanaan has stopped for fuel. For second place, Castroneves, and in fact, Giafoni, Unser Jr., and Brackett's only been 56. There are 24 to go. Scott, are you thinking it's close?
Well, you know, he's the guy right now. It looks like he's using all the fuel that's available to him. When we say that, Paul, 100% on your fuel trim inside your dash of a race car means you're making maximum horsepower. And the way that Tony Kanaan is going right now, pulling a little bit of a stretch over Helio Castroneves, I'd have to say that he's got no fuel economy run in sight.
On board with Sharp. Firestone telemetry. Tire temperature is still coming up.
Yeah, you can see it right there. It's in the yellow, Paul. That little red arrow is still in the yellow. He's waiting for the tire pressures to build inside the tires, the heat in the tires to raise. Up to around 200 degrees Fahrenheit these tires run to give him maximum grip with those tires. He'll need a couple more laps. As you can see, the arrow just starting to creep towards the green.
That's Scott Sharp. We're looking back at him from Jacques Lazier. And back to the front of the field. Scott, you've won this race. If you were in the situation Kanaan was in, would you really want to pull that much of a lead?
Well, you know, once you get a bit of a lead like he has right now, he's moving his fuel trim from 100% maybe back to 98 or 96. It usually goes down 2% increments, and then he'll sort of monitor from his board that's on the front stretch. The board man's there, and every time you go past, you'll see a sign that will say plus 0.5 or plus 0.7. He can monitor how far he's ahead of the second place driver, Castroneves, so you'll continue to do that. If he starts to build up a little bit of a cushion, he can maybe throttle back a little bit further on the fuel trim. And there again, you don't have to run full throttle also. There's many little tricks that you can play. And right now, he's probably using all of them just to conserve a little bit more fuel.
You remember Marlboro Team Penske split the strategy, brought Gilles de Ferran in. And now he's back in 7th place and beginning to work on Kenny Brack. That's Michael Andretti just ahead of Brack, the green and white car. Brack's the Pioneer number 15.
De Ferran, you mentioned, Paul, who's right behind him, who looks like he's starting to get a bit of a run right now, coming out of 4. Brack moves to the inside of the track. A nice, clean run. Now, that was set up right back going into turns 3 and 4. And we have to also mention that De Ferran right now is running with brand new tires. They also took on fuel, but also put on 4 fresh Firestone Fire Hacks, Paul. And so I think really what's happening right now, he's got more grip, fresher tires. He's going to have a look now at Michael Andretti.
Remember, Michael, the car is a little lame. That is to say, it's been involved in contact, and Michael said because of that, it's pushing very badly. But he was going to stay with it to the end of the run. Now, the Ferran tried him, but no. Phoenix International Raceway, the Indy Racing League. Tony Kanaan now with 14 laps to go is the leader of the PureX Style Indy 200. The question is, does he have enough fuel to go? Gilles de Ferran is working on Michael Andretti, and they touch. They both catch the wall.
Well, Michael had to have known that Gilles was looking there. He looked there the previous time, and that was a big collision, Paul.
So de Ferran trying to come back through the field where Look in the cockpit to see whether or not there's any movement from either driver. As yet, no. And that was a big hit. 10th caution of the day. So going into turn 1, DeFerrin and Andretti battled, and then they touched, and both right up into the wall on the exit of 1. And the IRL safety team there immediately. Tony Kanaan, the teammate to Michael Andretti, the pole sitter, that puts him in pretty good shape. Well, now here's the good news. Michael Andretti is climbing out of the car, but he's limping.
Paul, usually with an impact like that, they see anywhere from 50 to 80, maybe over 100 Gs. Now, I want to explain something. There's a new system on the car this year that sits right down here on the side pod, and it's a light system, and it's set up for the black box in the car. If the car is subject to over 50 Gs upon impact, when these safety workers that you see in orange arrive at the car, there'll be a light system going off there if it's over 50 Gs. They know how severe the impact is when they come up to the accident scene. If the light is going off, they know that they could have a real serious injury. If not, it's usually under 50 Gs, and that's where the threshold is, where drivers generally are maybe not too hurt.
So Michael Andretti talking with his rescuers. Jill DeFerrin, we're waiting for the report. Remember that last year he had to sit out the final races of the season because of the injury he sustained in the race at Chicago. Here it is, Scott.
You watch. Now, Michael didn't expect Jill to be there so early, but Jill certainly had a run on him going into the turn. Michael went a little bit high to start to weave the car down towards the turn like he should do. See, a good run by Jill DeFerrin. Jill's clearly beside him. Michael should have some information from his spotter to let him know what's going on. The fire that you see going along there is an oil fire. That's really no harm to the driver whatsoever.
Yeah, the oil cooler is in the left side of the car. The theory being more often than not you're going to hit with the right side of the car. But DeFerrin came all the way around, caught it with the left side, and that ignited the oil fire.
Now remember, right now, as they go together, those wheels have actually touched. The wheel is actually broken on the right rear of Gilles' car. Michael's suspension is broken. He goes into the wall head first, which is usually the worst, but the impact right there, let's hold it right there for a second. Look at the impact. The car has gone almost straight back in, going into the wall. Now there's an attenuator right there, and actually what ends up happening as we clear the screen and move along, the attenuator actually absorbs a lot of the impact, and it's a new attenuator that the IRL has come up with this winter for a safety reason. It's much larger than last year, so hopefully it's actually done a great job.
And they're still working with Jill DeFerrin at the car. Michael Andretti, we've seen him get out. Tony Kanaan is the leader under caution. We'll return after this word from our ABC stations. This is ABC Sports Championship Television.
At Phoenix International Raceway, the race is under caution once again, this time because of a crash involving Michael Andretti and Gilles DeFerrin. Now, Michael Andretti jumped out of his car. They have gotten DeFerrin out of his car. He is currently on the stretcher and is about to be loaded into the ambulance. There are only 9 laps to go here in this race, and there is a lot of work to be done over there in the turn 1 area where the accident occurred. We understand that just before being put into that ambulance right there moments ago, he did give the crowd gathered around there the thumbs up. So that is very good news from Gilles DeFerrin. Scott?
Tony Kanaan, Scott Goodyear in the ABC booth. I guess the question was for us right now, did you have enough fuel to make it to the end if we didn't have this last yellow?
Well, that's a secret that I want to keep to myself, but we're good to the end. If it wasn't for the yellow, I don't know, but if it's still an open question, so, and I'm pretty happy, so let's see what we can do here. We have a good car. We need to watch our restart. Hopefully all the guys in the accident are okay, and we'll see how we're going to end it up today.
Well, we thank you, good luck, and have a great race.
Thank you very much.
Gary Gerald, meanwhile, is with Thomas Schechter, who crashed earlier.
Well, Thomas is all right. He's been released from the medical center. I want to ask you about the fact Chip Ganassi just came up here. He had a big smile on his face. He was very encouraging. We had that radio report about That's why you're here, to go racing. How encouraging to you as a driver to know that your team cheers you on when you have to try to make one of those passes?
Well, we were fourth and Chip goes racing to win, so do I, and it was a good move. It wasn't a bad move, and you know, it's just unfortunate Felipe clipped me on the rear because I think we had a car that could have won a race.
Now you get ready for your next event over at Twin Ring Motegi. I know you're excited about the opportunity there on a bigger racetrack.
Definitely, I think maybe it'll suit my style a little bit more, but everybody in the team is so positive. Everybody at Target have done a great job, and Toyota's given me good power.
Sure looked like a top 5 today for you. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
As Gary indicated, the next IRL IndyCar Series event is the first trip to Japan. Penske, Ganassi, Andretti Green, Panther all look to gain momentum in the final race before the Indianapolis 500. And you can see it at 1 o'clock Eastern Time on Sunday, April 13th on ABC. Tony Kanaan, the current leader, has now led the most laps, 72. Felipe Giafoni has led the second highest number of laps, and the Yamaha lap leaderboard shows us that Scott Dixon, who was the early leader, led 34 before dropping out of competition. He will be shown in the 20th finishing position. And again, the laps are winding down here. When they come by next time, they're going to complete lap number 195. And the debris caused by that crash over there in turn number 1 is being cleaned up quickly, and hopefully we can go back to green flag racing for just a couple of laps to finish this one off. It's been quite a run, though, for Tony Kanaan, who started on the pole position, lost some spots at the beginning of the race, but has used some very smart fuel strategy to stay up front. There is his teammate, Michael Andretti, in the battered car, especially on the right side that he drove into the wall just moments ago. Jack?
Well, forgive Tony Kanaan if he's had the best of times and the worst of times this weekend. We've documented what has happened to him today, but let's go back to the final practice before qualifying. Tony Kanaan got up at a reasonable hour, showered, had breakfast, started to go on down towards the racetrack, got on an interstate highway, and got stuck in traffic. He told me I was starting to panic because I knew that the final practice before qualifying was when we would put our qualifying setup in. He got here to the racetrack with 5 minutes to go, made the final practice session, and this morning he said, thank goodness I didn't have to tell Michael that I was late for work.
Well, Kanaan is trying to become the 30th different IRL race winner. Today is the 73rd IRL IndyCar race since its beginning in 1996. Now less than 5 laps remaining in this one. There are the top 5. Castroneves second, then Giafoni, Al Unser Jr., and Kenny Breck. Rice, Jacques Lazier, Sharp, Fisher, and Hattori complete the top 10. There are 9 cars on the lead lap. And the word from race control is that they hope to get this race restarted on lap 198. So that means that next time around they would get the 1 to go signal. And of course, the Indianapolis 500 is coming up before too long. The big month of May features pole day on May the 10th at 2 o'clock Eastern Time here on ABC. Bump day is the 18th of May. That's coverage begins at 3 o'clock. And then, of course, our race day coverage begins with a 1-hour pre-race show at 11 o'clock Eastern Time on May the 26th. The greatest spectacle in racing unveiling once again at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in just a matter of a few weeks. Okay, they will receive the 1 to go signal this time around. Johnny Rutherford in the Corvette pace car has the field in tow, but will be exiting the racetrack before long. And Paul, we're going to have a green flag finish. Let's hope.
Well, in the battle of the engine manufacturers, Toyota scored with Dixon, and now Honda leads with Tony Kanaan. Castroneves' second. He, of course, has a Toyota. And we're getting ready to go green in what will just be a flat sprint to the finish. And the question is, can Kanaan hold off Castroneves? Matter of fact, can he hold off all of those?
That's a pretty stout list, Paul, and certainly Kanaan knows it. He knows he cannot make any mistake. His heart is racing right now, that's for sure.
There's the critical moment. Did he get the momentum back the way he wanted to? Looks like he did as the green comes out. Giaffoni's going to try Castroneves. Castroneves doesn't move on the start, being careful. 2 to go. Giaffoni tries to swing way wide and pick up second. 1 to go. Tony Kanaan, if he can hang on this lap, looking to be the 30th different driver. Another new winner in the IRL, 30th different to win in the history. Tony Kanaan driving for Andretti Green is the winner at Phoenix International Raceway. And the 29th IRL race with a margin of victory of less than 1 second. Scott, what's he got to say?
Tony Kanaan, obviously the fuel strategy worked out for you. A perfect restart. Your first time here at Phoenix, how does it feel?
Feels great. I need to say thanks to Team Green and all the 7-Eleven team. They did a great job, but I'm happy today, but I'm a little bit sad. I want to ask for peace. Peace in the whole world. That's what we want.
Some great words. Thank you. Enjoy the celebration tonight.
So Bob Jenkins, it's Tony Kanaan, followed by Castroneves, then Felipe Giaffoni. Allenser Jr. gets it up into 4th, then Kenny Breck 5th, then Lazier, Sharp, Fisher, Rice, and Shigeaki Hattori.
Great race for Sarah Fisher here today. Robbie Buell finished in 12th position, and all other finishers dropped out of competition, many of them because of accidents, but hopefully everybody's going to be okay. The question is, Gilles de Ferran. ABC's World News Tonight Sunday, or your local news later over most of these ABC stations. Join us for the Firestone Indy Japan 300 Sunday, April 13th here on ABC Sports Championship Television. ABC Sports is online at ESPN.com. Keyword ABC Sports. So long from Phoenix International Raceway.